Hello, and welcome to On the Marie Curie Couch, the podcast that aims to break down taboos and start open, honest conversations about death and dying. I'm Jason Davidson. I'm a social worker by profession, and I've worked in palliative care, hospice care, and bereavement support services for more than a decade. Each episode, we'll be speaking to a well-known guest to find out how they feel about their own mortality and how their personal experience of bereavement has shaped the way they live their life. Today, I'm on the Marie Curie Couch with Linda Lusardi. Linda's an actress and TV presenter. She shot to fame in the 1980s as one of the UK's best-loved models. Her 40-year career now spans the stage and screen. Linda's had roles in Emmerdale, the Bill and Brookside, and is a regular panellist on ITV's Loose Women. Linda lives with her husband Sam Kane, and they have 2 grown-up children. She regularly appears in panto alongside her daughter Lucy. Linda Lusardi, welcome to the Marie Curie Couch.
It's great to be here.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm very good. I'm going on a cruise next week, so I'm in best of moods.
Lovely. Well, have a nice time. Like I said, Linda, just before we started, the aim of this podcast is to encourage conversations around death and dying. So we know that people who might be grieving themselves and or caring for somebody with a terminal illness and listening to other people's stories can be helpful, can make it feel less isolated, can make you feel less lonely. And I wonder if I could start, Linda, by asking if you could tell me about a significant bereavement you've experienced in your life.
Oh, goodness me. I've had 3 really close people to me pass away. I had a friend who was only 32 who had breast cancer back in, what would it be now? About 93. And she really looked forward to the Marie Curie nurse coming. And at the time, I suppose because we were young, I didn't really know much about the Marie Curie nurses. I didn't know that was end of sort of life care. So to me, it was just a nurse visiting. I didn't really understand the implications of it. So, none of us were really expecting her to pass away. But the nurse just really helped her understand the journey she was going through, helped her understand her medication. And she looked forward to, it was a lovely, lovely young girl, came every week. Well, more actually every other day, I think she came. And I think that was the first, I'd lost grandparents and things when I was younger, but I think it was the first sort of peer that I'd lost, someone I could identify with and I'd talked about death with, because she'd fought cancer for on and off for about 5 years. So she contracted it when she was very young. And the doctors sort of said, it won't be cancer, it's probably just a cyst and all the rest. And she was sent away so many times before they took her seriously. And it's quite disturbing that if it had been today, she would have survived. The treatments have improved so much. And I think about her often because, we'd have been the same age and she'd still be here. And it seems so long ago, over 30 odd years ago, that she died. It's just seems tragic her life was cut so short. And I lost my father 6 years ago through Alzheimer's. It's just so hard to accept that they're not there anymore. But for me, the most painful one is still with me. I lost my mum in September and I was her sort of primary carer. I moved her when my father died to the next road and we got her a lovely little house. And she was, she was very good. She was 90 when she died in September, but she moved there when she was like 85, 84. And, she's had was really self-sufficient, didn't need anything. She could walk, she could talk. She was a very intelligent woman. I didn't take after her in that way, but was very academic. She's knew all about history and all about the royals and everything else. And, I went round there daily and she'd come to me every Sunday for lunch. And I'm finding it very difficult to accept that she's gone. Sorry, I'm going to let me go. She was a very big part of my life,
and she only died in September.
Yes, she's, and I'm still keeping her house while we try to sell it. So, sorry, going in there, it's very difficult.
What feels difficult, Linda? Can you say what's hard?
Well, I think for anybody that's lost someone, it's just the pain that you feel that they're not sat in their chair anymore. Sorry, I didn't mean to cry. It just the amount of times a day that you try to talk to them, or she was always interested in what I was up to, and she got great pleasure in my funny stories and things of showbiz stories and stuff. And if I've been away or doing stuff, she really enjoyed our chats every day. But it's just not having that energy there anymore that's been there since the day you were born.
That physical presence as well, as you say, has been with you since the day you were born, and then particularly in those latter years, in the last 5 or 6 years of your mum's life when she was round the corner. You were seeing each other every day. Somebody's a huge part of your life, and then all of a sudden they're not there. How do we catch up to that?
I don't think we ever do. I think that just the pain subsides so that you can talk, which I can't at the moment without getting upset. I talk about my dad who died 6 years ago, and it's upsetting, but it doesn't make me burst into tears anymore. So I think the body gets used to and puts that pain somewhere that doesn't come and slap you in the face like it did just a moment ago, because I can't talk about her really yet without getting really upset. With Angie, my friend, and my dad, it's been put in its place. I still miss them and I still think about them, but it doesn't conjure that emotion of crying because I'm still grieving my mum quite badly.
Yeah, it was only 8 months ago. That's really, really early days, isn't it? And so as you're describing, you're really feeling the pain of it.
I am, and she was, as I say, such a big presence in my life. And on a lighter note, we found out lots about her when she passed, because she was not one for self-praise. She'd always put herself down, and she was, as I say, a very intelligent, clever woman. When she passed, we had to go all through her things, which for anyone out there that's been through it is also an awful time to go through people's clothes and their belongings that they've treasured for so many years, and what do you do with them? You can't keep them all. And you feel so bad if you take them to the charity shop or, sell them. It just feels wrong when they've treasured those things. But we came across a big folder of artwork that she'd done at college. I didn't even know she'd been to art college. I knew she'd been to college, but I didn't realise she'd studied art. And her drawings were magnificent, absolutely amazing. I know she'd painted in later life, and I've got some of her paintings. But these drawings that she drew when she was 16 years old, they're just magnificent. I think it was the Daily Mail did an article and showed some of her pictures. So your listeners could probably look that up if you want to see them. Her name was Lila. And just so much about her that we didn't know. And, if you are with someone who's terminally ill or, getting to the age where they haven't got long left on this earth, ask them about their past, ask them about their loves and their lives and their things that they probably have never talked to you about, because I'd love to have, gone through these paintings with her and said, what was this about? Why did you draw this? Why have you given this man a funny hat? Now she's gone. I can't ask her those things.
Do you think, as you were just saying there, that she had a tendency to put herself down? Do you think that was the reason why she didn't share the art? Because she might have thought, oh, well, it's not good, or it's not of a certain standard, or it was done when I was a child, or...
Probably, because I know that when she moved from the house she shared with my father, a lot of her stuff she put into auction, and some of her paintings that were really good, she said, oh, no, the proportions are all wrong on that horse. I don't want it. So we let her sell them, and then when she passed, a lot of my nieces and nephews said, oh, that one with the horse and the foal, have they got that? I said, no, she put them in auction when she moved. So she didn't think she was any good at anything really, but she was amazing. She was an amazing woman, quite stoic, and she looked like the Queen. I remember once we were on an aeroplane with my daughter, who must have been about 3 or 4 at the time, and I paid for the drinks with a £5 note or something, and she went, "Oh, look, there's Nanny." So she really looked like the Queen. And I went to Buckingham Palace last week, not name dropping, but it was for the veterans charity. We went to the garden party, and it was Princess Anne was there, and now Anne is starting to look so much like her mother. And actually, when we were face to face with her, I welled up again and almost started crying because she really reminds me of my mum. She's got exactly the same sort of mouth and nose. And I went with my daughter and we looked at each other and both thought the same thing at the same time, that it was just, she said, "Oh my goodness, it's Nanny." So, but I do really miss her. I really miss my dad too. He was a powerhouse of energy, and, you never forgot him once you'd met him. People sort of, when he passed, came out of the woodwork and said, "Oh my God, I heard Nello's gone. I can't believe it. He was such a character," and everything. And again, with Angie, when she was alive, she was one of the nicest people I've ever met. I said it when she was alive. I said, "You're an angel sent from heaven. You shouldn't," because she never, ever had a bad word to say about anyone. She always saw the good in everyone, whereas I was always like bitching about people. And she used to think I was funny. But no, she was an angel. I don't know why we're all so shocked at feeling like this about people when they've gone, because it's just nature, isn't it? It's the only inevitable thing that's going to happen to all of us.
Yeah. When you were younger, what kind of conversations about death and dying were happening? I mean, was it something that was talked about in the house or the family, or was it something that was kind of hidden or not talked about? It something that was taboo?
I wouldn't say it was taboo. I just think as a young person, you don't even think about it. And I think I lost my first grandparent when I was in my 20s, both of them actually when I was in my 20s, and they were all both quite old. And although you have a relationship with a grandparent, and I was obviously very upset, it didn't hit me like when your parents go. But with Angie, we did talk about it. I can remember sitting on the bench in a park and she said, "I don't think I've got long." And I said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're fine. You're going to get through this." And I honestly believed the words I was saying because I just didn't realise quite how bad she was, because she didn't appear it on the outside. She had chemotherapy and she had radiotherapy and she didn't lose her hair. She lost some of it, but not much. And I just didn't, she said, "Well, if I'm on the other side, I'll send you a message." And she was very spiritual. And it was weird. I was actually at an airport hotel waiting to catch a flight the following day when she'd had to be rushed into hospital. She'd been rushed in a couple of times to have a blood transfusion. And this particular time that she was rushed in, she'd said, "Enough's enough. I don't want the transfusion." So she'd decided that she wanted to go. And in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m. in the morning, my kettle in the room started to boil on its own. And I just thought, that's really strange. And I got up and I went to unplug it. And I'm sure it wasn't even plugged in. It was really strange. And anyway, I went back to sleep. And then in the morning, I got the phone call that she died at 2 a.m. in the morning that night. So whether it was a sign, I don't know.
Do you think on that park bench, do you think Angie was trying to tell you about the reality of the situation and have a conversation about death? Because I think your reaction was completely understandable, and it's what many people say, it's what, because it's what, as you say, it's what you believe and it's what you know, and it's like, no, that's not going to happen. You're going to get through this. But of course, for the person who is maybe talking about it or wanting to talk about it or trying to talk about it, they're tricky conversations, aren't they?
They are. And I remember she was saying, "I'm so frightened of dying. I'm so frightened of it." And I really, at that age, I didn't know what to say. I just reiterated, "But you're not going anywhere, Angie. You're not going anywhere." And I remember we went back to her house and we were in the kitchen and she said, "Oh, look at the state of my garden." And it was really overgrown. I said, "That's it. Come on, get in the car. We're going to the garden centre." We bought loads of flowers and I bought some shears, and I actually got down on my knees and I was cutting the grass with the shears because she didn't have a lawnmower. And it was so overgrown that you couldn't have done it with a lawnmower anyway. And I planted all flowers around the edge so that she could sit in the sunshine in her chair out there. And I was attacking it because I just was angry. I was angry that, that she might be taken. And I just begged, please don't, take her. She's too young. She had a whole life ahead of her. But I did a show called The Full Monty on Ice for breast cancer awareness because she died of breast cancer. And I did the show for her, really. And it was just nice to talk about her as it is now. And I knew that because she was a model and she was in the industry, so she would have been pleased they'd shown her pictures on telly. And so I felt like I'd honoured her in that respect a little bit. And I could see her smiling up there going, oh, I like that one of me. I like that picture of me.
And I think what you're describing as well, Linda, is that even when a loss was 30 years ago, it can still be as ever present, can't it? And, I think taking opportunities, even like this one today, to just remember Angie and put her name out there and think about her for a specific time. It's like putting some time aside to think about her, because of course we just, day-to-day life, we're always busy with stuff, aren't we? And, people might, if they have a cemetery to go to, or, if they have other places to go to, then that might be the time that they're having sort of half an hour or an hour where they're just thinking about the person who's died. But I think it's nice to find other opportunities to do that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Whenever I go to the cemetery where my mum and dad are, I find it easier to talk to them at home or in her home. I sit where she sat and talk to her. And I talk to her all day anyway, on and off. But, I don't feel the need to stand over a grave to talk to them, And Angie, I often, when I hear songs and there's things that take you straight back to that moment with that person. She loved the Travelling Wilburys, and I'd never heard of them. I remember when they were... Do you know who they are?
No, I've not heard of them.
I might get this wrong, but it's back in the sort of 70s, I think. It was major people from different bands that all got together, and they called themselves the Travelling Wilburys. And she loved them, and I thought, what a stupid name. Who are they? And I just, whenever I hear their songs, I think of her, and songs just take you instantly back there. We've got like a little karaoke set up in our snooker room, and my dad always used to get on there and sing Frank Sinatra and all the Italian records and songs and Tony Bennett. But they're used so much on adverts and different things. He's just with me all the time. And my mum is just forever present at the moment. I don't know whether people believe in the afterlife. I do. And I still think that she hasn't gone over yet. She's still next to me all the time.
When someone's dying or grieving, getting things in order can be overwhelming, especially if people at the companies you're dealing with don't understand what you're going through. No one should have to spend their precious, limited time and energy wading through piles of admin. Companies need to act now to make SADMIN simple for dying people and those going through grief. Sign the petition. Search Marie Curie SADMIN.
I think music is a great way to remember, think about those, you've lost. But also some other people describe, it might be films, it might be places, holidays, books, poetry. I just wondered, for anybody listening, Linda, who's grieving, whether there was any other things that help you in your grief. And you've talked about music, you've talked about talking to those who've died, which is really lovely and really helpful. And I wondered if there are any other things that have helped you.
I think, like you said, to put time aside to think about them so that you don't have that pain that hits you in the face. You can lie on the bed and talk to them and set that half an hour aside just to have a conversation. Even you'll have all the answers that they're saying in your head anyway, because you know that person so well. So you know what they would reply, and just tell them about your day. And I just feel like you feel like you've connected with them again. But I don't have a magic wand to take the pain away. I really don't. I try and think logically. I think my mum was 90. I feel she would have lived to about 94, but she did have COVID early last year, and I don't think she ever got rid of the chest infection that went with it. And then she, that infection made her mind go. She went a bit doolally at the end and was a bit confused and upset. And the whole end of life experience for me with her was quite traumatic. So I try not to think of the traumatic part of it. And again, with my dad, with his Alzheimer's, that was pretty traumatic at the end as well. So I think for people that have gone through that and watched someone die, sorry, gone again, to try not to relive those moments, to try and think about when they were at their best.
Yeah. And I think that, trying to remember the better times, I think comes also with time, because when you're so close to something, and as you've just talked about, it was only 8 months ago when your mum died. That's a tiny bit of time. It's still all really close to you, isn't it? So I think as time evolves and as time goes on, then you have that ability to start to see the better times. But actually in the beginning, they can be really hard to kind of grab and reach out to, because you're processing, your mind and body's processing the death and that immediate grief and pain and sorrow. I was really struck by you talking about sitting in your mum's house and sitting in her chair and talking to her. And I was just thinking, how lovely that was. But also, my guess is that's where you can feel really close to her. So it must be such a lovely comfort. And I was thinking about how physical possessions can be such a comfort, whether it's a chair or something someone wore or something someone cherished. And I think it's worth giving thought to those things and how we use them, how we have them in our space, how we visit them, touch them, hold them, love them.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got some lovely pictures of her in our lounge. But I used to buy her clothes for her, and she was the same size as me. So, there's tracksuit I wear all the time that was hers. And I'd say, well, I'm wearing this today, Mum. And, some blouses and different things that I'd bought her over the years that I had back. And then I'd give her my sort of hand-me-down. So I've taken all those back again and started to wear them. I'd given them to her sort of sometimes back in the 90s because I thought they were too old for me, or wouldn't wear that anymore. Now I've got to this age, I don't care what I wear anymore. I just put it on. If it's nice, I'll wear it. But yeah, no, I do feel close to her in the house. And I always used to set her up in the garden when I used to cut her grass. And so when I go to cut her grass, that's really hard for me because I'm still having to maintain the house. But yeah, I just, like you say, the pain does subside and then you just remember the good things. And I must admit, even after 8 months, the really nasty bits in hospital and all that, right at the end and everything, they are being swapped with good memories. Because out of 90 years, she only had 3 months that she was really bad.
Yes, so true.
And I have to put it into perspective, That's my advice to anyone else, is the bad times are such a small part of someone's life. And if, it's never easy to watch someone pass away. We had a really sort of bad time with Sam's mum as well. I'd only known her a couple of years, so obviously it wasn't quite so much traumatic for me, but we had a villa for our honeymoon and she came out because we had it for 2 weeks and we'd been together quite a long time anyway. So it was a big villa. We flew everybody out the second week, like his mum, dad and everything else. And then his mum collapsed on the patio and died. I gave her mouth to mouth and everything. And so we flew home without her. And for me to watch him, I couldn't believe his grief. It just went on for so long. But that was a shock, and she was only 61, so she wasn't old at all. So we've experienced, losing or nearly all our parents, just his father's still alive. So, But she said she wanted to pass away in the sunshine on a hill somewhere in the peace and quiet, and she did.
Wow. As you say, they were really shocking death, isn't it?
It was a shocking death, and we were actually filming for A Wish You Were Here, so she'd been in the footage the day before, and she'd felt unwell. But yes, she just went there and then on the patio. But it was really hard to deal with, especially for Sam. As I say, for me, I loved her, but I'd only known her 2 years. So, but for him, I watched his world crumble, really.
So you and Sam, your husband, can be a support to each other as well in that, can't you, in grief. And I think it's not always easy. And I think what we sometimes hear from couples is, that they're maybe not getting the support from their partner that they might have expected, or their partner might say the wrong things sometimes. And I think what's really important to remember is, and we talk about this lots on this podcast, is everybody's bereavement, everybody's grief is unique to them and the relationship they had to that individual. So no two are the same, because no two relationships are the same. So your relationship with your mum was different to Sam's relationship with his mum, and anybody's relationship with their mums, because no two are the same, because no two people are. And so then, therefore, our experience of bereavement is going to be unique to the relationship that we had with the person who we've lost. And so that's how it can be tricky sometimes in relationships when trying to support somebody, especially if you've lost a parent yourself, and your partner's then lost their parent. And I think probably the best thing to do in those situations is just to be there and just to listen, rather than have to find the right thing to say,
Well, there is no right thing to say, because you want to make it better for that person and you can't. The only thing that makes it easier is time. Sam was very close to his mum, so he was really struck down by her death, especially at 61 years old. And he was about 28 at the time, so he was quite young. And he's never really got over it. So he was really understanding when my mum passed and when my dad passed too. But, he knows the stages of grief. And I mean, I could help him a little bit because I'd gone through Angie dying about 5 years before that. And I did say to him, I do think that 5 years is a real turning point when you've lost someone that you're very, very close to. I think it takes that long to be able to speak about them without really having that horrible gutty feeling in your stomach. And I think you put it in its place by then. As you say, everybody deals with it differently. And it is down to the closeness or the love that you have for that person.
Yeah. I'm going to change tack slightly now, Linda. One of the other aims of this podcast, so one of the aims is to encourage conversations around death and dying, because what we know is if people talk about death and dying, certainly if they plan for the future, then there can be better outcomes for those who are left behind. And I wanted to ask, do you ever think about your death?
I do, yes. And I think losing my mum and having to deal with the aftermath of finances and share certificates and probate and all that, I know that I need to get my stuff in order. Not that I'm going anywhere yet, hopefully, but I do need to get my life in order, because only I know where things are. Only I know what bits and bobs I've got over the years of buying, shares and different bits, and my bank account numbers. I need to do some sort of dossier for them to just open and know where everything is. As for what I want done with myself, I really don't know. I mean, my mum requested a pure cremation, and I think some of her relatives and some people's attitude to that was quite shocking, really. What? Well, you're not having a proper funeral and you're not doing this and you're not doing that. I'm doing what she wanted, what she asked for. And we just had a very big get together of everybody at her house. And I made up about a 45-minute video of basically her life. because I was always taking pictures and films and doing funny things with the kids with her and all this stuff like that. So people sat and watched for 45 minutes without saying a word, and there was tears and food and drink, and it went on till, well, people came at 2:00, and we went across and put her ashes into my dad's gravestone under the stone, with close family, and then back at the house, and the kids took all their karaoke stuff because my mum loved to hear them sing, and they sang in the evening. And sorry, I've gone again. And it was beautiful. It was so much more personal than a minister standing there talking about someone he's never met. And we all gave our little tributes to her. Lucy, my daughter, got up and she gave a lovely speech about her, and Sam did, and it came from the heart, and I don't know, so maybe I'd like that. Yeah, maybe I would like that, just a simple, the body doesn't get embalmed, it just goes straight from the hospital and is cremated. So I kind of think it's a more natural way, in a way, than someone filling you full of chemicals and in a box in the ground. I don't think I'd like that. But again, I've spoken to you about it, I haven't spoken to anyone else about it, so I should really tell them. I think I've just made my decision.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have. And I think that's what I'm here for today as well, to encourage those conversations around death and dying. And whatever your decision is, but I think that the key point is to, as you've just said, is to tell people, those around you, but also to document it, and I think you can write those things down. So people, I often say this, but people who are listening might not know that you can even put basic funeral wishes in a will. So a will is not just about, I want to leave this to whoever. You can also put some of your other wishes in the will as well. So they're formally documented.
I know that we found it very, very difficult to talk to Mum about it. She had her 90th birthday the December before she died. And my sister and I sort of said, we need to find out, she's 90 now. It's not going to be, it might be in the next 10 years. And then I said, shall I get her, because you can actually online get a book that you fill in. It's called If I Die. And it goes from everything that you want at the funeral, or you don't want a funeral. You can list all your bank accounts, just telling them where there are accounts, not all your numbers and everything, not your PIN, but you can just leave everything, just so that people are aware of where you've got things, what you want done with your money in your bank or whatever. And we did talk to her about it, and she gave us power of attorney, and she said she wanted a pure cremation. She didn't want a load of fuss. And that actually, she would have actually loved the party. I just kind of wished we'd had it before she'd gone, if you know what I mean. If I'd done a massive party for her 90th, it would have been lovely. But it is a difficult thing, because especially when people get to that sort of age, I don't know what you feel like when you're that age. I don't know whether you think, I've only got a few years left, or what. I don't know how you feel about it when you get there. Perhaps you're quite resigned to the fact you're going. I don't know. But I think for people, relatives, it's very difficult to broach the subject. It really is. But I do think it's important to.
It is. It is really difficult to broach a subject, and I think sometimes funeral wishes or whether somebody wants to be buried or cremated can be a way into those conversations as well, or something practical like, well, making a will. Have you made a will? They can be sort of entry conversations, if you like, to start a conversation, and it's not something that you're going to have all the time. These are a one-off conversation that you can do something about and then pack away in a drawer. So yes, they're difficult conversations to have, but then at the same time, when someone dies and you're grieving and you're in pain, and then you've got all of these practical things to sort out when you didn't have the conversation, then it's difficult then as well. So I don't know. Yeah, balancing it up. Can I ask, Linda, is legacy something that's important to you? So how you'd like to be remembered?
I think it's more important about the people you've touched in your life, I would like to be remembered as a really good mum. Don't really care about the rest. You know, a good wife, a good mum, and a good person is more important to me than whether people think I was a good actress or a model or all that stuff. I don't think any of that's important at the end of the day. You know, I'd like to be able to leave them something to make them financially better off. But more importantly, I'd just like to live on in their hearts, really.
I love that. I've got one last question, Linda, before we finish, and that is, how has it been for you today being on the Marie Curie couch and having these conversations?
I feel like it's therapy, Jason. You've made me feel so welcome. And the work that you do and everybody that works at Marie Curie, it's just amazing. And, you know, I'm here to support whenever you need me, you know, and I encourage other people to support you too. It's been, well, I didn't even bring some tissues in, so I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be sniffing all the time. I don't know why I didn't think I would cry, but, well, I did. I'm sorry about the squealing down the...
No apology for tears, ever. And we should have stopped for a tissue break. Linda Lusardi, thank you so much for joining me today on the Marie Curie couch. Thank you for sharing some of Angie's story and your dad's, and particularly Lila's. It's been wonderful to meet you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you.
So that's all for this episode of On the Marie Curie Couch. We hope it's got you thinking about matters of life and death, and perhaps starting those conversations with your own friends and family. Marie Curie's here to help, from planning ahead to coping with bereavement. You can talk through any concerns you have around the end of life with our support line team, which also includes specially trained nurses. Call us on 0800 090 2309 or search Marie Curie online. The podcast is produced and edited by Marie Curie with support from Ultimate Content. The music featured is Time Lapse by Panoceanic. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. Until next time, goodbye.